Let's go to Dhaka and speak to Asaduzzaman Foaad, who's a lawyer at Bangladesh's Supreme Court. Asaduzzaman, thank you so much indeed for your time. What issue do the protesters have with the Chief Justice, Obaid al-Hassan?
Well, I think for your viewers, just to keep in mind, there has been no credible election in the last 15 years. And given there has been no elected mandate from the people, there has been no difference between the judiciary and the executive and the legislature. It's all being at the hands of the lady dictator, the regime's chief, who fled to India now. So whatever the Prime Minister's office used to say, the Chief Justice used to obey. And the dictation and the judgments all being carried forward by the regime's order. So what the protesters and the uprising are demanding, that given you fail to stand by the people and rule of law and discharge justice and fairness for the last 15 years, you have no right whatsoever to keep in the chair now. So therefore, it is very reasonable. By the time your boss fled the country, you should have fled with her. So you should not have any right to be sitting there, Chief Justice, because you have no credibility. And to add to what you say, the Chief Justice is already resigned a few minutes back, including his colleagues at the Appellate Division, 6 of his colleagues, and made another judge as an acting Chief Justice. And there has been already a list of other judges. Out of the 100 Supreme Court judges, at least 70 to 80 of them need to go because they have been so biased, acted so unfairly and partisan way for the last 15 years to allow this regime to function, give legitimacy, judicial legitimacy in every matter you can imagine. Millions and millions of people and opposition protesters have been forcibly detained, being remanded in custody, tortured, and given false convictions. Many of them have been in detention for years and after years without any rational evidence whatsoever. The only crime they had is to be aligned with the opposition and being protesting against the regime. So it is that the demand is absolutely fair and clear, and the Chief Justice has been forced today, just half an hour before, to leave his position, and we expect the other judges to follow the suit.
Away from this particular issue, Asaduzzaman, is it possible just a few days into the new reality for Bangladesh to understand if there's any relationship between the interim administration, between the student protest movement and the army? Is there any relationship between those three?
Oh, certainly there are, because at the very last hours, or last few days of the regime leader, the dictator, has been forcing the armed forces to act like her police forces and other civil administration had acted, to shoot down people and to shot at, and as many thousands, and then there are reports that if necessary, kill up to 100,000 protesters. I will give you the shelters. Bring in the tanks and other armored vehicles from the cantonment and suppress the dissent in any ways possible. But of course, that didn't go well. The military chief had called all his officers for a meeting, and he sought advice. And overwhelmingly, the military officers had refused to abide by those rules, to go against the very will of the people, killing them, shooting them dead, only because they are protesting. So yes, certainly the military chief refused to assist and be complacent with the genocide of the lady dictator. And that basically forced her to resign and leave. And even the speeches given by the head of the military, General Asaduzzaman, has been very candid that we had mistakes, issues, but we would stand firmly with the people and by the state, and we shall not abide by any unlawful orders. And even the transition taken over by the interim government has been fully supported by the military administration. And even the law enforcement agency, 70% of the law enforcement agency basically in the barracks, because they have been part of the genocide. They're now fearing for reprisal. So they are not coming back to work. So it is the military forces has been looking after the local police stations, providing security. And of course, there are tens of thousands of student volunteers who are looking after the traffic systems, who are looking after the local security, patrolling the temples of the Hindu community and other minorities, looking after the key point installment of the state assets. So there has been a very joint efforts by the military administrations and the protesters, civilians.
Yeah.
It's a very symbiotic uprising, I should say.
Yeah, very, very interesting to certainly watch from the outside, but you are living it. Thank you so much indeed, Asaduzzaman Foaad.